Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Today we want to compare three different instructional design models. So that's what we want to do. We're going to look at ADDIE, R2D2, and Gagné's 9 events. So thanks for joining me and appreciate you being here. Oops. Okay. All right, let me just start with a brief overview of what we want to accomplish today. So I want to start by briefly defining instructional technology first, and then we'll walk through each model's major components. And then I want to finish with a comparison and maybe some practical selection guidance. And then that's it. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is define instructional technology, and I usually define it this way. Instructional technology to me would be the intentional design and iterative improvement of learning processes and environments, and that's should be supported by the appropriate tools in order to help learners achieve specified outcomes in real contexts. And so to me, instructional design is really both a field and a process. And at its center, it's really a systematic way to design learning experiences that solve learning or performance problems. And most ID approaches include analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. Now, we should note here that sometimes this is explicitly and sometimes this is done implicitly, as I'm sure you all know. But the models that I want to compare today differ in how structured they are, how iterative they are, and what they might emphasize if it's a process, product, or different learning events. All right, so model number one is ADDIE. So ADDIE is really a classic broad process model. It's often used as what I would say as a map for building instruction. And it's sometimes criticized as being a little bit linear, but I think in practice it's actually uh, more iterative than people tend to give it credit for. Because teams can revisit earlier phases based on particular feedback. And so we should keep in mind that ADDIE is especially helpful when projects need clear milestones, documentation, and alignment. Okay, model number two, R2D2, I would say is somewhat intentionally less rigid than ADDIE. Instead of a fixed sequence, it actually encourages cycles of trying, reflecting, revising, and adapting to learners and their contexts. And that's what I'm trying to indicate with the little cartoon graphic there. As you can see, it's set up to be more a cycle in my mind. And it's commonly associated with, if you can think back to last semester or whatever, the constructivist learning theory or constructivist learning environments, where goals may evolve and the learner input uh, uh, can shape the product. So we should keep in mind that this model fits design situations with a little bit of uncertainty, uh, innovation, or where you might expect things to change along the way. And again, that's why I kind of like this, like thinking about it as a cycle rather than some kind of sequence. Um, Okay, and then lastly here, model number three is Gagné's 9 events. Okay, so Gagné's model is a little bit different because in my mind, it's not a full project life cycle like ADDIE, and it's not an open-ended design philosophy like the one we just discussed in R2D2, but it's actually a structured event sequence. And that's what I'm trying to show by that graphic there is it's really a sequence of events. And so it's great for planning a lesson or a module or some kind of training session, and it aligns well with kind of the cognitive information processing ideas. So back to cognitive learning theory that we've talked about before. So anytime we need to talk about or emphasize attention, encoding, retrieval, practice, or even knowledge transfer can be good. Gagné's events can be good for those things. Okay, and I just want to make the key contrast here with the models that we've reviewed. So first, ADDIE organizes the whole project. I mean, this is how I think of it. R2D2 organizes how you might design when things are a little bit uncertain or evolving, and then Gagné organizes the learning experience itself at the lesson level. But I want to make note here that they can also combine. So for example, you could use ADDIE for the project plan, R2D2 for if you have some kind of prototyping you need to do or rapid development or whatever, and then Gagné to structure each lesson. That's how I tend to think of these three and how they kind of contrast, but how they can also fit together. And then couple things here. Lastly, I just want to give some quick examples of when I might use each model. So ADDIE, I might use if I have some kind of compliance training that I have to do or redesign maybe and it has to go across departments. I might look at ADDIE. R2D2, if I have some kind of, like I kind of mentioned, if I have a kind of prototype that I got to do, or maybe it's kind of new and interactive multimedia and it has kind of evolving requirements or something like this, I might use R2D2. And then Gagné, if I have some kind of step-by-step skill training that I have to do. So maybe it's kind of a software workflow or it's a clinical protocol, or maybe in my case, maybe it's even a math procedure that I'm trying to emphasize or teach. I might use that step-by-step from Gagné. Okay, and then lastly here, just let me just give a couple of key takeaways and then we'll get out of here. But the so I'm gonna say the best model really depends on our constraints, right? It's uncertainty, uh, and really the level at which we're designing our training. So if it's the program, course, or module or lesson level, it really those are the kinds of things that will dictate which we can choose. And then let's remember that they can be combined too, rather than just chosen exclusively. So keep that in mind too. Uh, all right, and then lastly, I do have a couple of questions that you could look at here on the board. So I'd love to hear which model you guys prefer and how you'd apply them in your own particular context. So you can maybe hit me up in the in the discussion for this assignment or whatever. You can reach out to me or whatever. It'd just be kind of fun to get your thoughts on these couple questions. But anyways, that's all I've got. Thanks a lot for watching this, and if you have any questions, um, please reach out. Thanks a lot.